Hello tribe, how are you? I hope that you are blessed and this video is meeting you at a great time in your life. If not, I hope that this video is helpful in some regard. Before we get started, make sure that you follow me on Instagram at The Matriarchy, as well as like, share, and subscribe here with me on YouTube. So, as you know, I have segments and series that I like to speak on some things that, you know, may have pricked my heart, or I may have experienced, or I'm speaking with someone and helping them through their experience, and I think will be something to bring to the forefront for everybody, right? And so today, one of those topics is growing pains. My last topic was about seasons changing, and I thought it was important to go right into growing pains is because as the seasons are changing, that may be something that you're experiencing in some of your relationships. And so I'm like, this is a good way to follow up on understanding the season that you're in. And now let's assess the people that we are in the season with, right? Or the relationships, because it may not be people. It could be business. You could be applying this to your business. You could be applying this to your personal life. I don't know, but I do try to make my things as general as possible so it can be applicable in any situation. That is the goal. But let's get into it. So when it comes to growing pains, I think that people, first of all, when it comes to love, let's address the relationship before we get to the pains of the relationship. But when it comes to love, I think that people normally think of it as linear, like a climb, like a mountain. It's steadily going up, up, up. Everything is supposed to get better from here. But what if it doesn't? And the reality is most of the time it doesn't, because relationships are cycles. And that is because we have long going conversations in relationships. There's things that can be easily fixed in that moment, done. And then there's things that require a lot more attention, more than one conversation. And as I'm getting into a longer term relationship, aka moving towards marriage and that form of commitment, I realized that it is the continuation of conversations and how you play fair in those conversations or in those arguments, right? So it is not linear. It is not a one and done all the time. Sometimes you got to circle back. Sometimes, you got to do a little love drive by and circle back around town and, handle the problem. That's just me being crazy. Y'all know me and my analogies. Y'all know by now if you've watched. If not, go back and check out some of my episodes. I have some crazy analogies. But that's what I wanted to address, along with the fact that as you grow in anything, there's a little bit of discomfort, right? Because you're used to a certain type of life, what we call you now have a new normal. And the pain or the tension of getting comfortable with this new normal is what the growing pain essentially is. I use another analogy. I use the analogy of outgrowing clothing. When you outgrow clothing, it can be very painful. Take your shoes, for example. Your feet keep growing and you're getting taller. You can't fit those shoes anymore. Let me see you slide your feet back into the smaller size and watch how over time, as you walk on your feet, although you are able to adapt, although you are maybe able to squeeze back into this, the margins of the relationship, or squeeze back into the metaphorical shoe, that doesn't mean that it's comfortable.
I think I got it. Just try the back and wiggle a little. Ow. Don't break them. Expensive.
Right. I'm not going to break them.
A lot of things could have changed about the person, about the dynamic of the relationship. And I think it's smart for people to acknowledge those things, communicate, and make sure you're basically, working from the beginning to have a healthy line of communication that is open, that's, willing to have the hard conversations. But not everybody is equipped to start that way. Sometimes they have to grow into that. And I understand that. respectfully. But those are growing pains, and a lot of times we feel like something is decaying without understanding that where there is death, there is life. And in every chaotic situation, there's danger and there's opportunity. Whichever one you lean into is the one that you'll focus on and the one that you're going to remember. So if you are having growing pains, let's talk about it. You could talk about it to the person you're experiencing it with, but lean into the solution. Lean into the things that you're trying to solve. Maybe not the problem, because then that's what you're going to focus on, and that's going to be the highlight of what's going on in the situation. And like I said in the past, those who are really ready for a solution, they're willing to be wrong about something. Whether it's their point of view, whether it's how they handle something, whether it's how they communicate it with you, they're willing to have a pivot in their perspective. Pivot in their perspective. Pivot. Sorry. I get carried away. I enjoy my company. So in this one, we are going to talk about growing pains, when they happen, and the stages of relationships, because I did not want to get too deep into growing pains without us fully understanding what stage I am in my relationship and why I'm experiencing this growing pain with this friend, with this partner, with this company, with this business idea, because it doesn't have to be a person that you are experiencing these pains with. But first, growing pains happen at the beginning of something new, a new growth, a new relationship, a merging of two things. Normally it's the present and the future that is merging. Maybe you were young and now you are getting older, or things like that, or the merging of two mindsets. Maybe my old mindset does not match with my future, and so I'm personally having growing pains with myself. Because now I have to realize that those things don't work for me anymore, and I have to teach myself new tricks. Okay, and if you're one of those dogs that can't learn new tricks, this may be the cause of your growing pain. Okay, but that is where the seed of growing pains tends to be planted. But let's get into the stages of growing pains really quickly. Stage one, as I said, it's called the merger, because you are merging two things that are not necessarily the same, not necessarily always compatible on every level. If we're going back to your mindset, there's things that you will keep about yourself, keep consistent about yourself, always. That's your foundation. That's who you are at your core. But there are things that you're trying to merge that is different. Sometimes you have to step into an essence that you have not fully learned or claimed yet. Right now, for example, I'm working on my promotion. I am not fully ready to run any company by myself right now, or any store by myself. But what I'm doing is I'm doing the mental work. I'm merging old Mariah, old experiences, old failures, old lessons, old opportunities with new opportunities to learn more about the business, learn more about my position and how I can better become acclimated to that. So, the merger. This is also known as the honeymoon stage, where everything is sweet, everything is super easy. I think about that all the time. This morning I was just like, oh, I don't have to worry about anything right now. Everything is great. Nobody expects anything from me. Oh, but baby, there's going to be a time where people expect for me to show up and show out. So what they tell you to do in this phase is to just enjoy it. When I was younger, the honeymoon stage was actually where I used to question everything. I think I skipped the honeymoon stage because I was worried about if people were presenting themselves in the whole honest light. And I knew the reality is nobody really shows you who they really are when you first meet them. They're going to show you what they think you want to see, or the best of them. And I knew that, and that made me question a lot of things. But what I didn't do was enjoy that phase. What I didn't do was enjoy the bliss of the honeymoon phase. And I think that is important in the stages of relationships and growing. So make sure you're enjoying this time. It's normally like a cocktail of hormones and emotions that leaves you a little clouded in judgment, and that's all right. As long as when you see something, you do something. So some things need to be an indicator that you need to pay attention more to things that are happening around you. So while I am in this honeymoon phase and I'm enjoying that, I don't have to be responsible for anything yet. I don't have to make any schedules. I don't have to necessarily do everything right and perform. Sometimes it makes my judgment a little cloudy, right? Because my guard is down. My guard is down right now. Right now, I'm thinking everything's sweet. Shit is sweet. And the reality is I still could be held accountable in this stage. But you don't think about that in the honeymoon stage because you still love how somebody smells, or you still enjoy how they chew their food, and you still just smelling that new baby smell, I would say. Okay, but stage 2 is where the doubt and denial comes in. That's where I skipped right to. And right now you will start noticing differences between you and whatever you're trying to merge with. It's not necessarily a negative phase. For example, most of the time through my honeymoon phase, because like I just said, I skipped the honeymoon phase. I'm just grown enough to realize I need to be enjoying this time. But most of the time right now, I'm also realizing what I should have done when I held this position last time, or the decisions that I should have made. I go back and I'm rethinking things, and I'm telling myself, you know, there's a difference in how you handle things now that you know better. You should do better. You can feel these same things in your relationship where you start noticing that, okay, maybe they do things that I don't care for. Maybe we have a difference of opinion in how we run a household, how we clean, how often we clean. It could be little things like that. Maybe he's a morning person or she's a morning person, and I'm a night. You really never know. This is when people really, like, the real person shows up. The person that, you know, maybe they've been hiding the bad and the ugly. You know what I mean? Like, I want the good, bad, and the ugly. Yeah, they've been hiding the bad and the ugly and just showing you the good. But the bad and the ugly has officially shown up. And sometimes this is where the growing pain seed is planted, because this is where you start being like, I don't like how you chew your food. I don't like how your breath smells in the morning. You know what I mean? This is when you start, like, noticing the things. You may not be acting on them. You may not say anything because we are fresh off the honeymoon phase. And I probably gave you the good of me too, right? I probably showed you the side that doesn't complain, the side that's not nagging you. But now the bad and the ugly is showing up, and I might nag you about every little daggone thing. Okay? So this is where the growing pain seed is planted. The third stage is disillusionment. I don't know. Words like that really just sit with me. I don't know why. It's so powerful. But anyway, like I said, I was just talking about seasons, and this is a good time for me to plug my last YouTube video of knowing which season you are in. It's a 2-part. Please go check both of them out. You want to know why? Because disillusionment is the winter season of your relationship. I need you to go back and watch the video so you can see what the winter season may give you as far as experiences and some tips to be proactive in those seasons. However, the disillusionment, which is the third phase of relationship, is a winter phase because it's a power struggle. Not only are you noticing the differences, but now I am not being quiet about it no more. I'm going to tell you that you're getting on my nerves. And so what you do see is a push and a pull between you and whatever you were originally trying to merge with. This is when things get hard. Yeah. This is where, you know, shit might hit the fan. And you're, once again, really going to see how this person or this entity or this business or, you know, this friendship shows up for you when things get hard. I tell people all the time in my line of business, when shit hits the fan, people go back to what they know. So it's really important that we invest the time to put the knowledge that we want them to go back to. Which leads me to the advice that I have within this stage. Notice I've been giving little advice here and there with each stages. With this one, they want you to remember that you need to communicate. You need to have those hard conversations and start learning how to communicate with this situation or whatever you are engaged with. If it's self, learn how to communicate with yourself to get the best out of you. If it's a partner, learn how they best respond, learn their triggers, learn the tone of voice that they prefer to receive information in, because the reality is, when it comes to communication, ask yourself what you want to get out of it. If you don't want to repeat yourself anymore, if you're tired of arguing, make sure that you're presenting yourself in that light. Now, if it keeps continuing and we decide to argue anyway, or you decide to pick an argument with me anyway, or you don't see it that way, that's a whole different ball game, different conversation for a different night. But you just want to work on opening up that line of communication and being open to having what we call the hard conversations, the ones that make you uncomfortable, the ones that you probably dread going into, but they need to be had for the progression of the relationship. So communicate. But this is also a time where the I reemerges. So sometimes you might find yourself getting into arguments or conversations where originally you would be like, hey, we should do this and this will be a good idea for us. Now you're also in this stage, you're going to be saying things more like, well, I didn't like how you said, I didn't care for how you responded to me. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily always you trying to be selfish in that time frame, but when you're trying to communicate how you feel, after the doubt and the denial and noticing what is different, you are trying. It's almost like you sometimes as people, myself, that's why I say us as people, because I realized you was another way in this conversation of disillusionment. I'm not disillusioned. I know that I can be a part of the problem, but it's not that you're trying to be selfish. I think there's times where we try to communicate and get the other person to understand our side so much that we have now stopped listening to understand. And that is a big part of communication. We listen to respond sometimes. And that's what I think of when I see the I reemerging. Okay, but let's go into stage 4. There's 5 stages, so I got 2 more. The decision phase is stage 4, because at this point, let's see, we've tried to connect. I've noticed that there was some difference between us. I've tried to communicate, if I'm trying to counter the disillusion, I've tried to communicate with you. And now we're starting to have a breakdown or a dissolve of the relationship because of however people responded or however things responded in a situation. Because remember, we cannot choose how people respond to us, how people respond to our decisions. We can't choose that. You're not in control of that. The only thing that you are in control of is how you respond in those situations. So this is a part of the response based on the responses that were had as you try to work it out. So what you see is a breakdown of the relationship. You may see somebody considering to leave because they feel at this point it's not for me. Or on the positive side, let's say we did communicate. Let's say the other person, the other party received what we were saying. I was able to receive what you were saying, and we grew past the disillusionment. This could be a time for you to reassess the relationship and decide, I actually do want to hold on, because although we do have problems, we tend to work through them in a way that I feel comfortable. In this situation, you want to think before you take action. Take time. Maybe go to work for 8 hours, work around other people, immerse yourself in a whole nother setting. You may even forget that there was a problem until you leave and you're like, oh snap, yeah, I do have some things going on at home. Or quite the opposite, go home, take some time, sleep on it. But what they also need you to do, and this is a big word for Elmo, accountability. Hold yourself accountable for the things that you've done in this situation that did not aid in the support, but aided in the dissolvement of the relationship. Because also the point of relationships is for experience. I mean, yes, you do want to end up in a situation where you are happy, but if all else fails and the only thing you can walk away with is a lesson, that's also a blessing. So make sure that you are taking accountability, taking account for all the things that you did. Most of the time, people keep score on the other person. You need to be keeping score on yourself too. Let's not repeat the same cycles. Now, let's say the relationship did not end in the decision phase. You did not decide to leave. You decided to stay because things were good enough for you to stay in the situation. Hopefully, you're making the decision based on what's best for you and your mental health or emotional health. But the fifth stage is the wholehearted love stage. This is where the healthy parts of the relationship tend to show because you've done the labor. You tended the land. You've groomed the relationship. Once again, please go back to the stages of, please go back because I'm working on stages. Please go back to when to know which season you are in. I used a lot of analogies around farming and tending the land. And I think that's another good reference point based off of what I'm speaking right now. But you get the fruits of your labor, basically. You get to see the result of whatever you chose to do in those other stages. So it could be a really good juicy fruit, or it could be one where you're like, I need to work on this. It's good. I got something out of it. I got a fruit, but it may not be as juicy, or it may not be the fruit that I want. So keep working. Like I said, it is not linear, meaning there is no end destination. Just because we made it to the fifth stage of wholehearted love does not mean that you get to stop putting in the work now, because at the beginning of my video, I made it very clear. These relationships, especially as the deeper you go, is nothing but revisiting the same conversation that needs more time or needs more work. But once again, you're getting the fruits of your labor. However, in this phase, we are suggesting that you know how to listen and know how to argue. The whole reason why this phase is so blissful is because at this point I know what to do. I know how to handle situations that pop up. I'm able to solve problems in the moment. And if I can't solve problems in the moment, I'm able to communicate that this isn't for me, or I can't do something, or I'm lacking in some regard and I need your help. And it's assumed that the other party is able to listen and do the same, and I'm able to listen to the other party. Because I realize the biggest also thing is that people don't know how to argue with each other when they really care about each other. They know how to argue with people who they don't care about. Hit below the belt, of course. Hurt their feelings, of course. Make sure you are the winning champ. Protect your heart. But when you are in a relationship with someone and you want something to last, you need to learn how to argue with them so that you aren't completely ending the relationship in a conversation, that could have been handled better. It's no need for things to just die because I couldn't handle the conversation better. Now, if I handled it good and we still decide that this isn't for us, that's one thing. But let me work on me in all things. Let me make sure I'm working on me and I'm showing up the best way that I possibly can. So those are the 5 stages of relationship. That is also going to be the end of this video. There are 2 more parts that you want to be looking forward to. Part 2, we are going to be talking about symbiotic relationships, what that means, how it shows up in our relationships on the day-to-day basis. And we will also be talking about the signs of being in a growing pain relationship that's growing apart, not growing together. And then part 3, you have some really good things to look forward to as well. We'll be talking about the difference between growing pains and growing apart, just to piggyback off of part 2, along with toxic traits for non-mutual relationships and positive traits for mutual relationships. These are all not big words, but they are really impactful words to building relationships. So I look forward to talking over those things with you. Thank you for spending time with me and watching this video. Please do not forget to follow, subscribe, and check out my other videos below. I did leave some links for part 1 and part 2 of knowing which season you are in below. So don't forget to check those out. and make sure that you guys are having a great day. Thanks again. I am Maya the Activist. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Learn something new every day. Okay.